What is happening, everybody? Welcome to StackChart Spotlight, where we go over some of the coolest and latest software available as seen on the Stack Charts on the Channel Program website. We are your hosts. I'm Steve Taylor. This is Garrett Brown. And Garrett, I gotta say, nobody's gonna watch this. They're all at PAX 8 Beyond.
Yeah, there's a lot of people at PAX 8.
So that means
LinkedIn.
Yeah, we can literally do whatever we want today, and nobody will ever know.
Yeah, as you say that, two just jumped on. Yeah.
All right. So, hey, here's the deal, guys. PAX 8 Beyond is this week, and I want to see comments. Are you ignoring PAX 8 Beyond and watching this stream? I want to see it in the comments, and I want to know why. because PAX 8 Beyond's cool. Watch this later. It's recorded, okay, guys? But with that said, this is typically a nice little educational 15-minute show. All right. So what I want to do right now is I actually want to start looking right at the stack chart for today.
What we got today?
Wrong buttons. See, I hit all the wrong buttons on purpose because we can do it whatever we want.
Yeah.
My story, I'm sticking to it. All right, so looking at our stack chart this week, we're looking at cybersecurity, zero trust security. Okay, so this is, as it says here, we assume all devices, users, software, apps, everything are untrusted and requires continuous verification before granting access to network resources. So when looking at zero trust security, there are actually a few different types of zero trust security out there. So there's what I think is the gold standard for MSPs, which is Threat Locker. This is a zero trust, almost, I want to call it antivirus because I don't know what else to call it, but it's a zero trust app you put on your computer, or on your client computers, I should say. And you have to whitelist the apps that you want to run on the computer. And then the next one down here, also a chart topper, is Conceal. And Conceal is actually a web browser. I don't know that it's a web browser. I think it's like an add-on or something for your existing web browser. So it works with Google Chrome. And I think it works with Edge and other Chromium-based web browsers to where it's doing zero trust web browsing, which sounds really cool. And I'll be honest, I have no idea how that works because do you have to whitelist all the websites you want to be allowed to go to before you can go to them? Is that how that works?
I honestly, for what they do, I'm not real sure. They probably use I'm looking at them right now, just kind of check it out. They probably use a lot of rules, what they're seeing out there, intelligence, data. But it looks like they're using a lot of AI to help kind of figure out, what's safe, zero trust. But it does look like it's a lightweight browser extension, so you can drop it into that. So they're probably using a lot of intelligence as well as user, what they're watching them visit and what they don't visit. So there's going to be a lot of different things that they're going to be drawing from that.
All right. Well, so some other platforms out there is Timus, Total. I think a lot of you guys have heard of Total. And then here's one that I'm actually impressed by, but so many MSPs throw so much shade their way. PCmatic. All right. So hear me out. I had the guys from PCmatic on my show probably 3 years ago, if I'm guessing, okay? But go to the Rocket MSP YouTube page and look up the PCmatic demo. I actually did 2 episodes with them. The first one was me grilling these guys, trying to get them to admit that their software is just one of those scams for old people. You know what I mean? But
what did they say?
They explained how they're running zero trust, and they were actually one of the first zero trust platforms in the industry, and they came with facts, and they came like they had one of their engineers come who actually is like a cybersecurity professional. Like, I was impressed by these guys so much that I had them come back like a week or two later, and we did a demo of their product, and we got to see exactly how zero trust security works through PCmatic, and it was like super affordable for MSPs. Like, I didn't have anything bad to say about it other than you could totally pick on their gimmicky commercials, right? Like, and
Did-
I think they knew that.
Were they the
Like,
ones with USB drives? You just stick it in, fixes your computer. Is that them? I think.
yeah, I don't remember, if I'm being honest. I just don't remember. But I remember they had these really, really bad commercials, and it just made PCmatic look bad for business, and MSPs didn't want to be associated with it. So PCmatic even had, like, if I recall correctly, they even had this like complete white label thing, so your end users didn't have to know it was PCmatic. Like, it was honestly like they put so much thought into their platform. I was impressed.
If it's what I remember it was, I think a lot of it had to do with their pop-ups on the screen. It was very aggressive and just like, hey, this is spyware, adware, whatever it is. But it may not be them, But I'm gonna get off that because I don't.
That's okay. We got Control One by Citricom. This is another. Oh gosh, what do you call that? I keep wanting to say MPLS because that's what I remember from back in the day. 20 years ago, that's what we would set up, where all the traffic routes to a central location. But this is SD-WAN, right? That's what I believe Control One is doing for MSPs. And then there's Defense X. They are another browser platform. And I did a little bit of research, honestly. And in fact, this will be a good time for us to start our features spotlight. So I did some research into both Conceal and Defense X. And both of them are like a browser isolation security solution. So they're going to aim to prevent those threats from the web, right? They offer features like, they've got integrations with Google Drive, Microsoft Teams, Slack, Zoom. They've got API access. I don't know what you would do with that, but I know a lot of MSPs want that, especially when it comes to using RPA, robotic process automation stuff.
Yeah.
And then they've got different deployment options for SaaS, mobile, desktop. Conceal Browse seems more focused on using AI or at least advertising AI to detect and prevent threats directly in the browser, while Defense X is described as zero trust secure browsing without any mention of AI. Conceal's been around longer. They were formed in 2012, whereas Defense X was founded in 2018. But that doesn't necessarily mean Conceal's better. They just have been around longer, right? They've seen more. So what's cool is like they'll create a sandboxed environment. So that way when people are browsing, it's all happening. I don't know how it works, but they make it seem like all the browsing happens remotely or in a sandbox. So that way, even if something does get through and an end user clicks on something they shouldn't have, the rest of the computer system is safe. So have you seen anything like that, Garrett?
Yeah. I mean, there's been plenty of stuff. There's a lot of the things with virtualized like apps, like who is it? Ben? There's somebody like that. But with the secure browsing, it's it's the zero trust. It's hardening your browser. So because there's a lot of stuff out there where people click on links. You don't know. Well, users just don't know, and even IT pros like sometimes we fall into stuff, things. So it's about just making sure that everything is controlled in that aspect, and make sure nothing gets outside that. Because if you visit a website that wants to drop something, on your computer, you don't even have to do anything. It just does it. The sandboxing aspect just sort of keeps it contained. But it also helps with a lot of CIO type, needs and the compliance, that sort of stuff. So it's becoming more and more important as we go because, you have a lot of SaaS platforms and these web browsers get very sophisticated. They can do a lot of things. So it is one thing that, I've absolutely, there's all kinds of flavors of this, but I'm glad to see these secure web browsers are starting to come out. Some of the first ones I ever saw were like on Android devices, but it was like sort of specific where it would divide your work data with your personal data, and it would have a browser in that. But that was a long time ago, and now it's so it's I like it.
And Defense X actually has some stats on their website, but zero trust web browsing. So should we zero trust the stats on their website? I don't know. But here, let's talk about these stats. 80% of the breaches involve web browsers on mobile and desktop. 85% of the breaches involve a human element. 68% of the attacks target endpoints. 61% of breaches involve credentials.
Human element is the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody out here knows that, but it's just, I think from an IT perspective, it's better just to kind of get the stuff locked down and, make sure it's going good as opposed to having to explain it to everybody, because that is what happens too. A lot of people ask, hey, why can't I access like my personal Gmail or, things like that, so there's a lot of reasons, a lot of high profile, breaches have occurred from things like that. So, but there's other policies involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now we're going to talk buyer's guide. So when you are looking for zero trust security, there's some things that you should consider. The first thing that I think you should consider is most MSPs are in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. They're using it themselves. They're putting their clients on it. In fact, many MSPs are drawing a hard line in the sand and saying, if you're on Google, we're not going to support you. We'll either move you to Microsoft or you can work with somebody else. And that's okay. That's their prerogative or your prerogative if you're one of those people. So I would say that you should make sure that the zero trust solution that you're looking at will integrate tightly with Microsoft 365 services like Azure AD or Entra ID, whatever they're calling it these days, Microsoft Defender, Microsoft Endpoint Manager. Make sure that you've got like a unified security approach when you're looking at these zero trust security applications.
I think one of the the things about zero trust, especially when you're looking at this, is so you have these platforms that offer, hey, we're going to do this for you, things like that, and then you also have the, your posture, your own internal policies for zero trust. It really all revolves around, well, not all revolves, but an important aspect is the kind of like segmentation. Like you break up your networks. Like sometimes we go to an a client or whatever, we're on board them. We segment out devices on their own subs. Like printers will be on their own subnet, laptops and things like that. It's the same sort of philosophy where you don't trust, but you want to segment and do micro segmentation. And the same thing can be applied to like, for example, 365 licenses. You get in there and you don't need everything, just undo it until they actually need it, but that's a good example of something I would look for when I'm looking at these platforms. How are they going to help me segment it? Are they going to help me do it based on who the user is, the role, what they're doing? So that to me is very important, is how they do that, the segmentation for that, because that is a driving posture for zero trust in general. So that's
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And one thing that I really like is if you go to the Defense X website, they have a pop-up. Those annoying pop-ups that you scroll halfway down the website and then there's a pop-up.
Yeah.
They've got one, but I actually like it. It says download CISA recommendations for securing web browsers, and it literally, there's no form, there's no there's nothing where they're trying to get your information. They're like, literally, here's the 3-page CISA recommendation. And if you don't know what CISA is, that is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. So that's one of those big 3-4 letter agencies here in the United States. And yeah, they've got recommendations for securing web browsers, and Defense X checks all those boxes. So that's one of, I guess, all that to say, if you want to follow some guidelines, or better yet, implement some type of security controls or compliance of some sort, then please look and see what these platforms, if they implement any of these security controls. Like, for example, you might say, I want to do CIS controls for all my clients. Well, is this a platform that focuses on CISA, on NIST, on CIS, CIS, on ISO 27001? There's so many different benchmarks and controls out there that you want to make sure that the platform you're using works with your security controls.
I think one of the other things too is actually a really big thing. It applies beyond zero trust, but policy enforcement. When you put in there, it's just sort of blanket enforce, or do you have that granular ability to define those enforcement points? Also, the propagation time for the enforcement to happen. Because if somebody's locked out of something, I've been in, I forgot what it was. We used to do something where something got blocked, and it took like 2-3 hours for it to slowly unblock, even though we were pushing hard. And so that is things to look at, because if you can't act real quick for the enforcement of whatever the policies are, that's a big deal. That reflects on you as an MSP, as the client, but how fast you can work with them. Then man, your stuff takes forever, so it's the last thing you want to hear. But policy enforcement is really good. It's not just the policies, but how that works and the timeline around it. So that's definitely something to look at, that because there's going to be umbrella, there's going to be granular policies, and be all kinds of stuff. And does it implement with 365 or whatever it is you're looking at? So
great. Well, I think that is all the time that we have today for our StackChart Spotlight. Because nobody's watching, I told myself, you know what, Steve, you don't have to come prepared. So I didn't. So I'm looking up. I'm emergency looking up. Next week, we're going to talk about BCDR, business continuity and disaster recovery. I'm pumped. There's some good platforms out there. So Garrett, thanks for joining me. Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you next week.
See y'all out there.